Hey, hi there. This is what we're talking about today. What really happens when you die? And before we get going, let's just remind you that death is actually an illusion. No one dies. That said, we do want to talk about, instead of the death process, the transition process. Okay, because the only thing that really dies is the physical body, and you are more than your physical body, whether you understand that yet or not. Okay, so what does happen when the body dies? When the body dies, first of all, I think what's really important to understand is when you transition, you're going to experience first your own energy, because you literally move through your energy field, like when you, that whole concept of going through the tunnel. There's a lot going on there, but you are actually also going through your belief system. You have to journey through all of your beliefs that's in your energy field. And that's why people who have near death experiences can have vastly different, in some cases, reports of their experience. Some people have said they experienced a sort of hell. Others experienced angels. Some people went through a tunnel. Some people went straight into the light or just found themselves somewhere else. Okay, so what's going on there? And it's important to also acknowledge that near-death experiences, now that they're more widely acknowledged, right, and accepted by more and more people, this is our evidence of the afterlife. But there's another level to this that involves deliberately, consciously, in a controlled manner, having a sort of near death going out of body. Okay. And those people reporting even more incredible experiences of what's there on the other side. And definitely more than ever before, I think more of us understand that we don't die, that there's no way that you can cease existing. But what does happen when someone drops their body and they cross over? As I said, they have to experience their belief system. So if that person believes that there's a hell, right? And if they believe perhaps that they were a bad person and that they may be entering that illusion of hell, they are going to experience that. They're going to create a sort of hell for themselves. And some near death experiencers go through a sort of hellish experience. That is what that is. Okay. That does not mean there is a hell. All that means is temporarily you're going to experience what you believe. But once you transition, you come to understand that there's far more than that. That's just your belief. Now, if the soul, or rather the spirit that you are, because the spirit is your personality self, that is part of your soul. So your spirit, once it transitions, if it wants to keep believing that it's in hell, then okay, it's going to create that experience over and over. But gradually it'll come to realization, no, wait a minute, I don't have to do this. Like, maybe I don't want to do this. Okay, I think I'll change. I think I'll do something else, right? You will have that opportunity to do that. You will be able to drop that. You'll be able to choose something else. You'll learn that. But initially, that's what people experience, what they assume the other side is like, right? That's it. But that doesn't mean that if you initially experience that, that is the afterlife, that is heaven, okay? But that is why near-death experiencers come back with different stories, although most of them talk about the transition, the crossing over as being a beautiful experience. I mean, I think generally speaking, right? Probably, I don't know the numbers, but from what I've read, the majority of them do experience the other side in a positive way. Sometimes surprising, sometimes in a way that they would have expected. So, for example, if somebody, again, they believe in Jesus. They may encounter Jesus because that's their belief system. Of course, Jesus actually does exist because he was a soul, he was a person, but they're going to experience Jesus because that's in the belief system. If they were of another faith, they might encounter some other ascended being, some other entity, because that's part of their belief system. Right? So that I just want you to understand, just think about that you cross over, you're going to encounter what you believe, and then gradually understand the fullness of the other side, and that there are other levels, there are other realms, if you will. There are realms beyond the heavenly realm, which is something, again, that out-of-body experiencers are reporting. Okay, so, well, we'll leave that for another discussion for another time. So, as far as the death itself, again, physical body death, not soul. You cannot die as a soul. Your spirit never dies, your soul never dies, but your body, you drop your body. When someone is, let's say, in the transition period, because of course some people, they die unexpectedly, right? They have an accident, or maybe they drop dead of a sudden heart attack. Like it's instant, right? It's immediate. That's different from somebody who is more in a lingering phase of it, right? Like maybe they're in hospice, or maybe they're unconscious for a long time. Maybe they're in a coma for a long time. Whatever the case may be, their transition is more gradual because they're here, and yet their spirit, quite often, if they're in that in-between phase, and I'm going to include in this someone who has dementia like my husband Alan had, where he was not all here in his mind, right? He says to me that he was very cognizant of everything that was going on, but he was also on the other side, because all of us can actually be on the other side. But when you're in that in-between place where you are going to transition, whether it's going to be within days, hours, weeks, months, whatever, it's a different situation. So some of them will be going to the other side and having experiences. And Alan did report to one of my friends who's a medium that he had taken a sort of tour of heaven before he transitioned. And it was really funny. She said she saw him in line with other spirits, I guess, who are considering transitioning, waiting for this tour. And he got to see all that there is on the other side. And he was really excited about it. He wasn't excited about leaving me. That's a very different thing. But he said that he always knew that he could connect with me and come back, and as he has done now, and that there would never be any real separation. So in that way, he was happy. He was looking forward to it because he was just tired of being old. He was 82 before he died. He died on his 83rd birthday, and he was just tired of having an old body. He just knew that his next step was to be non-physical so that he could help through the veil. And I would suggest that some of your loved ones are doing the same, that they left when they did to help you and others through the veil. And because there's so much more that they can do when they're non-physical. You and I can do more when we're non-physical. They can give us healing, guidance, support. They can give their love more fully, unconditionally, because they don't have an ego anymore. They are fearless, they're limitless. They can't override our belief system, though. So that's where you and I have to do our own inner work, our spiritual work, to clear our limiting beliefs and our fears and our trauma and our issues, because that's what keeps our vibration low. And when we do that, when we release that, which is a lot of what our work is about, the work I do with Alan is by helping people clear all of that out, clear the basement, so to speak. your vibration naturally rises and your psychic awareness naturally unfolds. You don't need psychic development classes. And that said, we're actually planning to do a little more, psychic exercises with our students, only because they are working through their limiting beliefs and clearing their issues and all that. And so in that case, these exercises that we will do will just help them kind of really anchor in the understanding that, oh yeah, I'm natural born psychic. Everybody is. If you're a soul, you're psychic. Okay, so when you die, you come back to the full knowing of that. But guess what? You can understand that now and awaken to all of who you are, which is your soul, your higher self, your spirit, all of that. Why not do that now? Your loved one wants to help you on the other side to do that. So when they crossed over, when they were in, let's say, that in between phase I'm talking about, what Alan was in, they can visit other places. Like I said, they can go the other side, get a tour of heaven. They can visit people who are still in a body, their friends who live elsewhere. They can go anywhere. They're limitless. And quite often they are doing that. They quite often have their foot in both worlds, especially if somebody with dementia, they're already visiting the other side on some level. So I want you to understand that even if somebody is in a coma or they have Alzheimer's, they seem like they're not, able to talk to you, they can understand you because that person, that being that they are, right? They're in their body, and they're struggling. They can't understand you. They can't communicate. Just because they can't communicate clearly doesn't mean they're not grasping what you're saying on another level. Okay, because this this us is part of us right here, and then who they are right here in the body is just one tiny part of who they are. So their higher self, their soul, is also fully aware of what's going on. They just cannot, in the 3D physical, can't explain it to you, can't share it with you in a lucid way, right? It doesn't mean that on the broader level, they don't know what's going on. They absolutely do. Okay, absolutely. So talk to them, communicate with them, whether they're in a coma or they seem to be incoherent. The greater part of them hears you. The greater part of them is always non-physically focused, fully aware and cognizant of everything that's happening to that spirit, right? That's And Alan says that's an important thing for you to understand, because a lot of you are dealing with loved ones, friends, maybe family members who have memory issues, who have dementia going on, and there's a tendency of people to just think that they're checked out, and he says not really. They're not at all. So never make that assumption. Use that opportunity to tune in psychically to them, because you can. You can communicate on that level, and you can learn how to do that. That's going to help you when the time comes that they do transition, because you'll be all set, ready to go. Because guess what? If you can communicate with someone in a body who is not able to communicate, you can communicate with them when they drop their body. A good friend of mine, her daughter was born with some disability that left her in a hospital bed for the 7 years of her life. And she couldn't talk, couldn't speak, had always had tubes going into her mouth and breathing apparatus all around her. So she was never really, cognizant in the way that you and I are. And yet my friend learned to talk to her daughter psychically. And of course, when their daughter left her body and was on the other side, she could clearly hear her daughter. And her daughter was free, and her daughter was happy. And her daughter now is always with the family, because now she's not trapped in that body. She taught her family about life after death in that sense, and about how we all have a mission, a purpose in life. And I think that her child was here to teach her family compassion and to teach them, like when she left and crossed over, that life went on. And sure enough, her family has contact with their daughter all the time. When they go out, the daughter sends signs to them all over the place. It's beautiful. And what an amazing legacy to leave your family, to let your brothers and sisters understand that their sister, even though she's no longer here in physical, is right there loving them, helping them, talking to them, everything. So just know that when you and I leave this world, we are going home. We're not losing anything. We're gaining everything, right? Now, that doesn't mean that those who remain here in the physical, of course, are not struggling. Of course they are. They are dealing with their own physical loss. Okay. And you are too, if you're watching this and you lost someone who's crossed over. And I hesitate to use that word lost because, they're not really lost to us, right? So that's why I don't really like saying it, but you know what I'm talking about, right? If you lose their body and you think that that's all they were, now your challenge is if you want to connect, and especially if you want to continue a relationship, you have to understand this, that they're a spirit and so are you. And because they're a spirit, and you are too, it's the most natural thing to communicate with them. It's so natural that most people discount it. They think they're making it up. And it's frustrating for the other side. I hear them say that all the time. Like, I can't get through to my loved one. I'm jumping up and down. I'm sending them signs. I'm putting my messages into their mind. I'm doing all these things and they still don't believe. Okay, so it's important for us who want to continue and want to connect to keep reminding ourselves that they're here. This is not easy because your logical mind, which most of you, I'm seeing, well, who I'm talking to right now, about 85% of you have, like most people, have allowed your conscious physical mind to run the show. You refer to your logical mind to make decisions. Big mistake, because the logical mind is not intuitive. And when you want guidance about the next step to take, decision to make, you actually want to use your intuition, because your intuition, which is part of your higher self, which is connected to your soul, knows the best step, the best action to take, and is trying to send you that guidance. But if you analyze it and go into logic, you're going to miss it. You're going to miss it. And why do you think a lot of people stumble and struggle in life? And why do you think that people who really, thrive and have breakthroughs are the people who are highly intuitive, who kind of have listened to that inner voice and that positive feeling they were getting about something. They've learned to dial into that, right? When you cross over, you drop the ego, you drop your limiting beliefs, you know who you are, but you can do that now. Don't wait until you die to come alive. Right? But yes, we know that death is challenging. My observation is opening up to the other side is much more challenging for people in the Western world, because we've been programmed to just believe in, science, right? Believe in the physical is all there is. And the afterlife and anything paranormal is just pretty much, poo-pooed, or people roll their eyes. They just think that's all nonsense when you got it all backwards. This physical world is the made-up world, and the spirit world is the source of everything, and is where higher wisdom is and all the inspired ideas come from. It's where, of course, we return to, so it's our home. And the more you turn that around and realize, wait a minute, I got it all backwards. I need to listen to what comes to me. My imagination is the conduit between my conscious mind and my higher mind. Do you know that? When you cross over, you come alive because you realize that, oh, I am a soul. I have access to all knowledge. So again, don't wait till you die to come alive. Most people in a body are not really alive. They're just walking around, listening to their logical mind and wondering why life doesn't seem to get any better because they're not listening to the guidance that is all around them, right? When your loved one left this world, they were not alone. Nobody ever dies or transitions alone. Okay, so if anyone lost someone during COVID and they couldn't get to them because they were, quarantined and they weren't allowed in, please understand that your loved one didn't pass by themselves. They were tended to by their guides, by their angels, by their loved ones on the other side. That is always the case. The other thing is, no one is ever alone in their space. And if you understood that, you probably may even get a little freaked out, although there's no reason to get freaked out because no one is alone. You cannot be alone. Well, you can't. Alan's laughing. He goes, you can be. He used to do banishing rituals because he used to practice the Kabbalah and would do a banishing ritual, right? To clear his space or somebody's home of all the spirits. The problem with that is when you do that, you clear the spirits that are helping you, like your guides, like your angels. You clear everybody. And then when you do that, you clear the room, literally clear the room, and you try to do a reading, guess what? You can't do it because to do readings, so at least the way he and I work, you're working with the spirit world. They're giving you information. You're connecting to your higher self. So when you clear the space, you're kind of just with you. You're just with you. And he had experiences of that quite often. You go, oh yeah, I forgot I cleared this. So you have to invite back in who you want to connect with. So you call back in your angels, you call back in your spirit team, your guides, you hook up with that, okay, and then you're not alone. But normally everyone, even if they don't believe, whether they believe in this or not, they're not alone in their space. Okay, you're just not. And you're always, even when you try to block it, even when you try to ignore it, you're always connected to your higher self, which is trying to tell you what would be most fulfilling for you? What is the next step for you? What would bring you joy? And if you listen to the subtle communication is coming from your higher self, from spirit, from your guides, you'll hear that, but you got to turn down the volume. So nobody dies alone, right? That is just impossible. Now, somebody who crosses over, this has been asked before about earthbound spirits, okay? Somebody who dies unexpectedly, suddenly, um, yes, they could resist crossing over. They may be very attached to the earth plane, like they don't want to leave. They don't want to, they're afraid maybe that, again, maybe they believe in hell and that they're going to go to hell because they were not a very good person. And Alan says there are a lot of people who have that belief and they're terrified about crossing over because they believe they're going to hell. Think about it. Think about all the brainwashing done by religion, certain religions that tell people you're going to burn in hell. So if you were even, he says, marginally imperfect and you hurt somebody, and imagine if you really did some, terrible things, of course you're going to be terrified about crossing over. Of course you're going to resist leaving this world. Wouldn't you? If you believe that you're going to go to hell and you believe you were sinful, you're going to fight it. And he says there's a lot of that that has happened because of people's belief systems. I think that's happening less and less, okay, but that still goes on. So in those cases, yes, the spirit might resist and say, I'm not going. They'll still be supported by their guides and angels, other beings who are trying to help them, coax them to go to the light. Family members, loved ones on the other side may lean in and try to remind them to cross over, right? We're not talking about that when we're talking about continued relationships across the veil. Okay, we're not talking about that. Yes, there are souls who are earthbound. They are not in the majority. Okay, they're not. Because usually family members show up when someone is in transition and they're trying to help. Okay, and also your prayers, when someone has recently passed, to just have them go to the light, send them to the light, send them love, remind them that all is well. That helps too. Of course it helps. So there's no reason to be afraid of death. It's part of life. There is no death. For you and I, who are connecting with someone through the veil and really building that relationship, for you and I, it's going to be very different. For you and I, it's going to be really like we just got up out of this chair, walked across the room, went into the next room, and hi, everybody. And there's a big party going on. Why is there a party? Because now your spirit has returned to your soul. You come home. All of you is back. Whereas right now there's a portion of you that is living in this illusionary world to have an experience that you cannot have on the other side. It's impossible to have this earth experience in the spirit world, and that's why you and I are here. So when we cross over, you and I won't have any fear. Many of us who are reuniting with partners through the veil are going to celebrate, right? The full reunion. I say full because you're already reunited with them. Full meaning all of you will be there now instead of just, most of you there. There's the remaining part of you is suddenly going to go home, and there's going to be a big party. Trust me, there'll be a big party with you being celebrated and honored, and it's a big homecoming. Okay. But for now, you're still here. Your loved ones have transitioned, and you can still connect with them. You can still engage with them. You can, especially those of you studying with us, you're going to have increasing connection, as many of you are reporting, because we're helping you clear your limiting beliefs. That's the only thing standing in your way. Okay? It's not about being profoundly psychic. I've met psychics, extraordinary psychics, who are some of the most messed up people. Spiritually, the vibration it ain't that high, okay? But for you and I to have this relationship with the veil, it's a different thing. It's a different story altogether. It's not enough to just be psychic. You have to raise your vibration. You have to work on your own spiritual growth. You have to become a loving, compassionate being. You have to let go of your fears. You have to become who you truly are. And you don't have to die to become who you truly are, like Ellis is like he had to do. Okay, because he couldn't be all that he is now, all that he was. He couldn't because his negative ego was in the way. Now, when we die, okay, people often ask, well, was that planned? Was it an accident? Right? And the way I understand it, and I want you to take anything that I say today or at any time, I want you to take that bit of information, hold it to your heart. I mean, literally, like maybe put it in the palm of your hand. Okay, Pam said this or this idea. Put that to your heart. Ask your soul, is this my truth? Is this my soul's truth? You will get an answer. you'll get an answer and either feel a little bit of a uplifting feeling or feel a little bit, maybe a little bit down, like somebody pushed down on you a little bit, or you might feel neutral. If you feel neutral or you feel uplifting, look at that thumbs ups. That's your indicator that, okay, this, I'm in resonance with this. Okay. You can discern the truth when you hear it or read it. I would like to activate that knowing in you because your soul knows. Your logical mind, I'm sorry, it knows nothing. It only knows what it's observing. It cannot really tune into the truth and know it on the soul level, but your soul does know. So get used to seeking the truth and knowing that you can feel it on the soul level, or just know it on the soul level. Okay, so you you are this eternal being, and you can know everything you need to know when you need to know it. And since there's no death, there's nothing to fear about that process. And yes, there are basically three ways that we leave this world. And one of them is that we plan it. We plan it. Destiny. We plan it. A soul may come in as a spirit. Again, the spirit is the personality of that person, right? The soul expresses part of itself into that personality, ego self. Whether that spirit is a baby, a 5-year-old, a 25-year-old, a 90-year-old, or even younger than a baby, maybe like 1 month old, or maybe 6 weeks old in the uterus. Okay, that spirit can decide, I'm not going to be here long. Like maybe I'm going to die when I'm 1 year old. That's all I need is an experience to come in and come out. I know a lot of people would wonder, well, why would any spirit do that? There's all kinds of reasons for that they're just testing it out. They just want to come in, come out. Just understand that everything is happening by design on the soul level, right? So that's one way where the soul just decides, I'm going to exit maybe when I'm still in uterus. Maybe I'm going to be miscarried. Maybe I know that my mom's going to abort me, and that's okay. Like, I'm just going to have this experience. Or maybe I'm going to live to be 60 years old or 90 years old or whatever, and I'm going to exit on this date. All right, that's one way. The other way is you could change your mind or even have multiple possible exit points, but you can change your mind at any step of the way. But at some point, clearly, you're going to drop your body and leave this world. I don't really see many people walking around who are, 200 years old. Okay, there are some people who live to be 100 and older, right? But we don't see anybody who's lived beyond a certain number of years, do we? So we know at some point we're going to drop the body and return the other side. So that there's two ways, right? So in other words, again, you determine this is when I'm going to cross, or number two, okay, might change my mind or have alternate exit points that I could decide to take or not take. The third one is sort of an accident, but technically not an accident because physical life is always an orchestration. Things are happening because of our beliefs and our thoughts. So you could say that we're creating everything, even when it seems like it's an accident. So what do I mean by accident? So the ego self, your human self, again, which is not your soul, your higher self, your ego self. Obviously, your ego can take action, can do things and go, oops, like, why did I do that? Okay, that didn't turn out really well. And then it will deal with the consequences. It's kind of, Alan was saying to me, it's a little bit like a wild card. Okay, so, um, so what can happen is the ego might just become so frustrated with physical world and has forgotten completely who it is. And a lot of people right now in this world have forgotten that they're a soul. They've come in, they've forgotten, or maybe they chose to forget, like profoundly. And so they're a bit lost. So if you're lost and you've forgotten who you really are, you don't feel connected to your higher self, to your soul, even though you've had glimmers of that or moments of that, your ego self, your human self could say, well, I'm out of here. I'm just going to check out. There's many ways to check out. You don't literally have to, take your life. There's ways that people exit this world unconsciously, as simple as not taking care of their body, right? There's many ways to check out. But you could say in that case, it's sort of like an accident, like, okay, you have the choice to just say, I'm leaving before my time. And usually, and I say usually because there's always exceptions, usually when they cross over, the spirit has a lot of regret about that. Okay, an exception would be, however, if the spirit was really suffering, like emotionally, physically. And I'd say, emotional stress counts as that. If somebody's really that distraught, that broken, that much in pain, whether that pain is physical or emotional, sometimes they just reach a breaking point, and sometimes the only healing that's possible is a transition, right? So if that's the case, and there's no judgment regardless of how you cross over. But definitely in those cases where the pain is so unbearable, the person couldn't take it anymore, physical pain, many of us don't even have a clue the degree of physical suffering that some people are dealing with that prompts them to leave this world. And I thank God that they can do that. I wouldn't want my loved one to deal with unrelenting pain and suffering 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, would you? It's okay for them to let go. That is the path to healing, right? So there's all these different ways that we exit, no matter how somebody dies, whether they died, you know, from their own actions, whether they hurt other people, right? Like maybe they've taken somebody's life, maybe they've caused suffering to others. Everyone goes to the other side. All souls go to heaven without exception. There's no judgment. That said, I want you to really think about this. The harshest judgment comes from the spirit themselves, the soul itself, that recognizes what it did, recognizes its deeds and how it hurt others, because you go through your life review when you cross over, you experience everything that other people experienced because of your actions or inaction. And for some, that is devastating enough. It's hard to forgive oneself. It really is. But most people who've been hurt or abused by others think the opposite. They think that somebody who's damaged and hurt others is just waking up with happy, with, they have no conscience. No, the soul knows that what it did was inappropriate. You cannot run away from that. So when you return to the other side, you see the trail of destruction if you left one behind you, and you are the one that judges yourself. No one else has to judge you. There's no need for that, ever, because the soul is fully aware. This is, oh my God, what did I do? And so some souls have a very, very difficult time forgiving themselves. This is how it is. You're going to be the harshest critic of yourself, nobody else. There's no need for that. and everybody else is doing the same for themselves. You're when you cross over, you look at, okay, what did I do? What did I get right? What did I not get right? Who did I help? Who did I hurt? All of that. No one gets through this life scot-free without hurting somebody, even if it was completely unintentional. If you ran a stoplight unintentionally and caused somebody to die, is that any less severe than if you did it intentionally? Like you literally gunned your, accelerator and went through that? No, the result is the same. So even if you didn't mean to, the soul carries the burden, the weight of its actions. And so soul has to process that. And in some rare cases, if the destruction, the trauma, the pain that was caused was so immense, from I understand, and I want you to feel this out and see if it feels true to you, is that some souls decide that they cannot really recover and that they return to all that is. They kind of get, let's say, like emerge into oneness. They kind of get absorbed and kind of start over. Okay, because you can't really destroy energy. You can't really destroy a soul technically either. But that's an extreme case. So there is no death. All souls go home to the other side. There is love in the afterlife. There is marriage in the afterlife. There's everything in the afterlife. Please, please, please do not believe anybody who tells you, based on their religion, this is a lot of religious nonsense, is what the other side says. There is everything and more on the other side. So if we have marriage here, we have it because it exists on the other side. The only thing that doesn't exist on the other side is separation, is limitation, is restriction, because there's only oneness. So I want you to think on that, okay? On the other side, all possibilities exist. If you can imagine something, the reason you can imagine it is because it exists. If it didn't exist, you wouldn't be able to imagine it. Would you? You can't imagine non-existence. I challenge you to. What does non-existence look like? What does something that doesn't exist look like? No. If you can imagine it, it means it exists because thoughts create. So all options exist and more, because there are some that you and I can't even fathom because we just have a rather limited imagination while you're in a body. But on the other side, you think of something, it's there instantly. Don't like it, change it instantly. You don't have that here because a lot of us would self-destruct. So it's a buffer. It's kind of a safety valve, if you will. Things are going to take longer to manifest. Now, some of you know that your loved ones are building you homes on the other side. They are. And you're already together with them on the other side. You are. So why not spend some time going into your imagination, connecting with that? The reason you'll see whatever you see in your imagination is because it exists. And I know that many of us struggle to have our experiences taken seriously by the masses. And I don't expect that to change anytime really soon, but it will change. It will change. What we call interdimensional relationships, or relationships through the veil, are on the leading edge of consciousness. And I believe they will come a time when, thanks to the, you know, popularity, if you will, of near-death experiences, that this will be taken more seriously. Because remember, when people first reported having near-death experiences, some of these people were institutionalized. They were. They were they were labeled crazy. Now that doesn't really happen, right? So you and I are having these relationships. We have to kind of be prepared for that not to be taken seriously. But you still need to share your story. You still need to talk about it or not, it's up to you. But I think if you're watching me now and you watch any of our videos, I think you will be able to tell that I'm not crazy. And neither are the people that we work with, that I talk to, or some of them that you will get to know in the near future as we bring them on and share their story. This is not what crazy looks like, okay? Just turn on the news and you'll see what crazy is. This is not it. You can have connection with the other side because there's no death and because you and I are a soul. And that cannot change. That cannot be altered. Even if you don't believe you're a soul, you're a soul. And even if you don't believe you're being guided, you're receiving guidance. You might be ignoring it completely, turning a deaf ear, but you're still getting it. Trust me, back in the days when I knew nothing of this and I heard a voice talking to me outside right here, telling me I was making a mistake, I knew I wasn't crazy. I didn't know what that voice was, but that was my higher self trying to help me avoid making a mistake. I know this happens to lots of people because I've talked to, at this point in my work with spirit of going on 36 years, and I've worked with hundreds and hundreds of people, and I know, I promise you, people have had connection with spirit and they just dismissed it, like I initially did when I heard that voice say, "You're making a mistake." But I did listen to that voice. I did, even though I didn't understand it. I knew it was real because I didn't make it up. I knew I wasn't crazy. I'm not a crazy person. So I knew this must be something to pay attention to. And it did help me correct the mistake that I eventually made. And thank God that voice did say, "You're making a mistake," because my life would have been very different if I hadn't course corrected. But that's what spirit does, is trying to get our attention and say, "Hey, what are you doing? It's not going to turn out well." And it only got loud for me that time because I was at this really critical juncture and my life would have been very different if I stayed on that path. I wouldn't be talking to you right now if I'd stayed on that path. And that's why spirit world had to get loud. And I wasn't open to the other side. I wasn't a channeler at that time. Hadn't even had a reading. I was like 20, I can't remember now, 28 years old. I mean, I knew nothing about any of this. Okay, I wasn't closed to it. I just didn't know any of this. And yet I heard that voice clear as day saying, "You're making a mistake." But normally the other side talks much softer. And they do with me now. It's more ingrained in me. I more feel the prompting, the guidance in a different way. And so I teach people how to discern like how they're being guided. But you can definitely begin listening to that greater part of you. Turn down the volume of your ego, conscious, physical mind. Turn up the volume of your higher mind. There's two parts of you that need to work together. But for many people, it's going to take time to quiet the conscious mind and so they can hear the higher mind who speaks more in emotion, usually of excitement, curiosity, passion. fascination, right? Love. When you feel love pulling you in, that's higher mind. What I recently shared with our students, and this is a real nugget of wisdom. I hope you will mind this piece, okay? The urge we have for love, for fulfillment, right? Of wanting that connection. You know what that really is? It's not just about wanting to meet your soulmate, although it can encompass that. I'm not trying to dismiss that or make that minimalize that. That's part of life in 3D and even in the spirit world because there is love and relationships on the other side. But that yearning, that longing, that urging, the seeking for love that many people have, right? They're seeking love and connection. That is actually the call of your higher self, your higher mind. It's wanting you to come home to who you truly are. Because you could have the world at your feet, but if you don't have that in place, if you're not more in tune with who you truly are, you're only half a person. You're only half alive. Our loved ones who've died, whose bodies have died and crossed over, are fully alive because they don't have a conscious mind anymore. They're only one with their higher mind and all that is. But you and I can do this right now. You're alive, I'm alive, during the time of the great awakening of the planet, time of ascension. What do you think that's about? It's about becoming your soul, connecting with your higher mind, living that guided life, not a logical life. There's a place for logic, there's a place for the physical mind, there's a place for the ego, but not in making your decisions, not in telling you how to live your life, not in guiding you through the craziness of this world. That is not the job of your physical mind. It's the job of your higher mind. And that is the focus of our work. It's not just about psychic development. That's what I've Spirit's shown me. That is just kind of like the icing on the cake, like decoration that completes it maybe, but really the cake, because you can't have the frosting if you don't have the cake, right? So the cake is your higher mind, the basis of your source, soul, spiritual awareness, whatever you want to call it, is connecting to your higher mind. You can be the most psychic person on the planet and be very distorted and unhappy. And to be honest with you, a bit crazy too, because you're not connected with your higher mind and you're not positively focused predominantly, because that is what happens when you step into blending with your higher mind and your physical mind, become a whole person. It's easier to be positive, even in the face of chaos and negativity. Okay, it doesn't mean you like it, because I certainly don't, but I can work my way through it and not be derailed and not go into anger, resentment, fear. Sure, I get a little bit worried, but I come right back to center. I know when I'm going into my physical mind, I come right back to center between my higher mind and physical mind. I know how to do that. That's what we're teaching people how to do. This is really the gateway to that interdimensional relationship. It's not just about being able to hear them. You want the full experience, you want it all, you got to work on yourself. You got to come alive and not wait till you die to come alive. You and I can look forward to death, knowing that there is no death. But if you're still here, you're not done. You're not done. You wanna test that out? Go, lie on the sofa, like, I have a sofa back there, or lie on the floor and say to the universe, to God, all that is, whatever, say, "I'm done. I'm done with this life." And if you open your eyes and you're still here, guess what? You're not done. Because if you were done and you said, "I'm done," you'd be gone. So I don't know why you're still here, but there's a reason. And I know it's a beautiful reason, even if you're struggling right now, even if you're grieving, even if you feel lost and adrift, you don't know what to do. I suggest you open up to your higher mind, your higher self. You listen to the spirit world, to your loved ones. Take time to tune in. You know, if you're new to our work, please watch our other videos. My goodness, like why are you here if you have we have taught about this for gosh, going on 4 years now. It'll be this yeah, this August. It will be 4 years since Alan passed, and we've been teaching about this. Okay, so please subscribe, like, and share, and watch our videos. Look at our playlists. We pretty much put most of the most important content on this channel. We can't put all of it. I literally I have lost count. 200, 300, I don't know, videos, like teachings that have gone on for several years now. Well, beyond that. But the best of it's here. Okay. They are not dead. You are not going to die. If you're here for a reason. Last thing I want to say, it could be that you're here for other people, especially if you have children, other loved ones who they may need you. You may have agreed that you're going to be there for them. Okay. So this is what breaks my heart when I see people giving up and they have family members who need them and they just can't kind of be there for them. And I understand. I'm not saying that that's wrong or judging anybody, but there are many of us who are here for not just for ourselves, or maybe not even for ourselves. We're here because we agreed to help other people. And you'll know if that's you because you'll feel it in your heart, in your soul. You'll feel it. So if you were to leave prematurely, you're going to regret it tremendously. And I've seen that with spirits who've crossed over and they're just like, I mean, they're devastated. Like, oh my God, I promised to be there for my kids, or I promised to be there for my sister or my friend or whatever. Okay. And it's really tough to cross over and realize that you made that error. There's no judgment, never any judgment. You're the one that's going to be hard on yourself. This is an exciting time to be alive. It's also a really challenging time to be alive. Our loved ones want to help us. They can help us. The path to do that, to experience that, is to connect more with your higher self and to be less of your human ego self. That part of you is just meant to experience reality. It's not meant to make your decisions for you based on next step because it's not psychic. Your higher mind is 100% psychic. It has the map, the blueprint of where you're to go, not where God wants you to go, where the God within you wants you to go, because there's no other outside authority who is telling you what to do. It was never that way. It is never that way. Okay, so listen, start listening, and know that there's no death, only life. So why not get busy living now as a whole person? You can do it, or you wouldn't be listening to me. You wouldn't. You just wouldn't. All right. So I'm just going to check here briefly. We're at the hour mark, and I didn't see a whole lot of questions, but I want to just be sure before we sign off. Okay. Right, and I know Melissa just said, "I'm so grateful you talked about building a home there." That's exactly what he told me. Yes, because you have homes on the other side that you can design and create and change and alter, redecorate, right? You can be anywhere in the world, in this physical world that you wanna choose, or even in places that you've never visited before that exist on the other side, because there's other planets and dimensions and realities, right? So your home in the spirit world could be anywhere, anywhere. Thanks for watching. Please subscribe, like, and share. Help us get the word out that there is no death, because you doing that will literally save somebody's life. Literally, because I talk to people all the time who say, I wouldn't be here if I didn't know that my loved one is still with me. That is the truth. That is true. All right. So take care. Lots of love. Until next time.